Hello friends, my name is Aisha. Today, I want to tell you a story that will touch your heart and make you think. Please listen carefully until the end, because this story is not just about success, it is about the beauty of being quiet, humble, and kind, even when you are winning in life. Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a young man named Rowan. Rowan was a simple and hard-working boy. His family was poor, but he never complained. His father worked as a carpenter, making wooden chairs and tables. His mother stitched clothes for the village women to earn extra money. Rowan knew how hard his parents worked, and he always dreamed of giving them a better life. Every morning, before the sun came up, Rowan would go to the river to collect water. Then, he would help his father in the workshop, cutting and shaping wood. After that, he would go to school. Though he was tired, he still paid attention in class. He loved learning. But there was one thing Rowan did not do. He never showed off. He was smart and talented, but he stayed quiet. His classmates never knew how hardworking he was. Even when he got good marks, he never told anyone. His friends sometimes made fun of him, calling him simple or boring because he didn't talk much about himself. But Rowan didn't care. He was happy with his simple life. One day, a big competition was announced in the village. It was a wood carving contest, and the prize was a scholarship for a big university in the city. Everyone was excited. Many rich kids from the nearby towns came to participate. They brought fancy tools, expensive chisels, and paints. They wore stylish clothes and walked around with pride. Rowan wanted to participate too, but he had no fancy tools. He only had his father's old, worn-out tools. They were rusty and dull. But he didn't care. With his father's permission, he joined the contest. The day of the competition came. The entire village gathered in the big field. There were tents, colorful flags, and loud announcements. The rich kids carved beautiful designs of animals, gods, and castles. Some carved dragons with fierce eyes and sharp teeth. The crowd clapped and cheered for them. But Rowan sat quietly under a tree, carving a simple wooden bird. His hands were rough and blistered from years of work, but he moved them with love and care. Slowly, he shaped the bird's wings with delicate cuts. He carved tiny feathers, one by one. He worked in silence, not looking at anyone. When the time was up, the judges walked around, inspecting all the pieces. They praised the big, fancy sculptures. The crowd pointed at the golden paint and sparkling stones on the rich kids' carvings. No one noticed Rowan's small wooden bird. It sat quietly on the corner table without any glitter or show. When the results were announced, the rich kids stood confidently in front, waiting to be called. But the judges called Rowan's name. Everyone was shocked. The crowd went silent. No one understood why the judges had chosen his simple wooden bird. An old judge stood up and said, "We chose this bird not because it is big or shiny, but because it is perfect. Look closely. Every feather is carved with love. The wings have life in them. This bird was made with patience and heart. It may not be grand, but it is real. And real art does not need to be loud. The crowd clapped, but some people still whispered, "It is just a bird. It is too small." The judge smiled and said, "A true artist does not shout. His work speaks for itself." Rowan won the scholarship. With tears in his eyes, he ran home to tell his parents. His father, with his rough hands, hugged him tightly. His mother kissed his forehead. They did not care about the prize. They were proud of his hard work, his patience, and his honesty. Years passed. Rowan went to the city. He studied hard, became a successful wood artist, and opened a beautiful gallery. Many rich people came to buy his work. But even then, he remained simple. He never wore expensive clothes. He never boasted about his success. When people asked him how he became so famous, he only smiled and said, "I just kept carving." Quietly. One day, a reporter came to interview him. She asked, "You are so successful. Why do you live so simply? You don't even show your awards in your gallery." Rowan smiled softly and said, "When a flower blooms, it does not make noise. It simply spreads its fragrance. The world notices the beauty of its scent, not the sound of its growing. That is how I live." The reporter was speechless. She realized that Rowan's success was not in his wealth or his fame, it was in his humility. Back in the village, Rowan's parents still lived in their old house. They did not ask for a big mansion or a rich life. They were proud of their son's kindness and simplicity. One day, a little boy from the village ran up to him and said, "Sir, will you teach me how to carve wood?" Rowan smiled, patted the boy's head, and said, "Of course. But first, learn to be kind. The best art comes from a kind heart." And so, Rowan, the boy who once carved a small wooden bird with rusty tools, became a symbol of quiet success. His story reminds us that true greatness does not need to shout. It simply shines. Friends, remember this. You don't need to show off your success. Let your work, your kindness, and your honesty speak for you. The world may not always notice right away, but the right hearts will. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and use later. When Rowan became famous around the world, he still returned to his village every year. He still walked by the river where he once collected water. He still sat under the old tree where he carved his wooden bird. It encourages me to bring you more beautiful and inspiring stories. Thank you for listening with your heart.